Chosen ones, listen closely, because what I'm about to say is not comfort, it's confirmation. This is not motivation, it's revelation. You are not here by accident, and you are not hearing these words by coincidence. Something has been watching how you move when nobody applauds, how you stand when nobody supports, how you remain faithful when life gives you every excuse to quit. And now the moment has arrived where everything you endured is being weighed, not to punish you, but to prepare you. This is your final test before entering your winning season, and the reason it feels so intense is because the old you cannot go where you are about to step. That version of you had an expiration date, and it has already passed. There was a season when you were trying to survive. Every day felt heavy. Every step felt uncertain. You were questioning yourself, questioning God, questioning the timing, questioning why it seemed like everyone else was moving forward while you were stuck fighting invisible battles. But what you didn't realize is that survival mode was training mode. You were being strengthened quietly. You were being sharpened internally. You were being taught how to walk without applause, how to believe without evidence, how to keep showing up when nothing around you was changing. And now the test is not about whether you can endure pain anymore. The test is whether you can handle elevation without shrinking back into your old mindset. This is where many chosen ones fail. Not because they aren't gifted, not because they aren't anointed, but because they still see themselves through the lens of who they used to be. They still apologize for their confidence. They still explain their boundaries. They still feel guilty for outgrowing people who refuse to grow with them. And this final test is exposing that. You're being placed in situations that demand a new response from you. Situations where the old reactions no longer fit. Situations where silence is wisdom, where walking away is strength, where choosing yourself is obedience, not selfishness. Pay attention to how life is testing you right now. You are being tested in patience because what's coming requires emotional stability. You are being tested in discipline because abundance without discipline turns into destruction. You are being tested in obedience because where you're going, partial obedience won't work. You are being tested in self-worth because the next season will place you in rooms where people can sense hesitation before you even speak. And if you don't fully let go of the old you, you'll either self-sabotage or settle for less than what's been prepared. The old you tolerated disrespect because you were afraid of being alone. The old you over-explained because you wanted to be understood. The old you chased validation because you hadn't fully accepted your own value. But that version of you has already been stripped away through disappointment, betrayal, isolation, and delay. You didn't go through that pain to remain the same. You didn't cry those tears to keep doubting yourself. You didn't lose those people just to keep carrying the same mindset. Something in you has shifted, even if you can't fully explain it yet. That's why everything feels quiet right now. That's why conversations don't excite you the way they used to. That's why you feel disconnected from old environments. That's why small talk drains you. That's why your tolerance for nonsense is gone. You are not becoming cold, you are becoming clear, you are not losing compassion. You are gaining discernment. And this clarity is part of the final test. Can you trust what you now see, even if it costs you familiarity? Can you honor what you feel without needing external confirmation? Can you walk forward without dragging pieces of your past to make others comfortable? Winning season is not just about external success. It's about internal alignment. It's about being so rooted in who you are that distractions no longer pull you off course. It's about having peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's about understanding that not every battle requires a response, and not every door that opens is meant for you. And right now, life is watching how you move when pressure increases. It's watching whether you run back to old habits or rise into new standards. You may feel like you're being stretched, like everything is demanding more from you, more responsibility, more maturity, more faith, more restraint. That's because the old capacity can't contain what's coming. Expansion always feels uncomfortable before it feels powerful. Growth always challenges identity before it rewards consistency. And this test is asking one simple question: are you ready to let the old you die completely, or are you still holding on to pieces of it for emotional security? There are people who won't recognize you anymore, and that's okay. There are people who will accuse you of changing, and they're right. You had to. The version of you that kept forgiving without boundaries, that kept giving without reciprocation, that kept shrinking to fit into spaces that never honored you, that version could not survive the next level. Winning season requires courage. It requires decisiveness. It requires the ability to say no without guilt and yes without fear. And every challenge you are facing right now is sharpening those exact qualities. Notice how you are being tested with timing. Things aren't happening as fast as you want, but they are happening exactly when they need to. This delay is checking your trust. It's asking whether you believe in the promise even when progress feels invisible. It's asking whether you will rush ahead emotionally and sabotage what is being built spiritually. Winning season does not arrive to the impatient. It arrives to those who can stay grounded while waiting, focused while uncertain, faithful while unseen. And let's be honest, there are moments when you feel tired of being strong, moments when you wish someone else would carry the weight, moments when you wonder if it would be easier to go back to who you were. But deep down, you know you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you now understand. You can't go back to begging for crumbs when you've tasted clarity. The discomfort you feel now is not because you are failing, it's because you are shedding layers that no longer belong to you. This final test is also about how you treat yourself. Do you rest when you need to, or do you punish yourself with constant pressure? Do you speak to yourself with kindness, or do you repeat the same harsh words that life once threw at you? Do you honor your intuition, or do you override it to please others? Winning season demands self-respect, not arrogance, but grounded confidence, not entitlement, but self-belief. And right now, every internal conversation you have is either preparing you for elevation or anchoring you to the past. You are learning to move differently, to listen more than you speak, to observe before you react, to pee. Protect your energy instead of explaining your boundaries. This is not accidental. This is refinement. And refinement often feels lonely because not everyone understands the process. But solitude is not punishment for chosen ones, it's preparation. It's where your voice becomes clear, your vision sharpens, your dependence on external validation fades. And when you step into winning season, you will need that inner strength more than applause. The test is subtle, but it's constant. How do you respond when someone doubts you? How do you react when things don't go your way? How do you treat people who can no longer go where you're headed? How do you handle silence, waiting, and uncertainty? These moments are not random. They are checkpoints. And each time you choose growth over comfort, discipline over impulse, faith over fear, you pass another part of the test. You may not feel like you're winning yet, but that's because the victory is being formed internally before it manifests externally. Winning season doesn't start when things change around you. It starts when something settles within you. When you stop chasing and start attracting, when you stop forcing and start aligning, when you stop proving and start becoming. And that internal shift is happening right now, even if your environment hasn't caught up yet. The old you needed constant reassurance. The new you trust the process. The old you feared being misunderstood. The new you values peace over explanation. The old you reacted emotionally. The new you responds intentionally. This transformation didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen without cost. You paid for it with tears, with isolation, with letting go, with choosing growth when it was uncomfortable. And now the final test is asking whether you will fully step into this new identity without hesitation. Because once winning season begins, there is no room for self-doubt disguised as humility. There is no space for fear dressed up as caution. There is no time for old wounds to dictate new decisions. You are being invited into a season where momentum replaces stagnation, where clarity replaces confusion, where favor meets preparation, but the door only opens fully when the old you stops reaching for the handle. Right now, stay grounded, stay disciplined, stay observant. Don't rush the process and don't romanticize the past. Everything you are experiencing is shaping you into someone who can hold what's coming without losing themselves. This is not the time to look back with longing. This is the time to look forward with readiness. Because the test is not ending yet, and the rhythm of this season is still building, and every choice you make from this point forward is quietly deciding how you will enter what comes next. And as rhythm continues, you need to understand something deeply. The pressure you feel is not meant to crush you, it's meant to reveal you. Pressure always exposes what's real. It shows you where your faith is solid and where it still wavers. It shows you whether your confidence is rooted or borrowed. It shows you whether your strength comes from approval or from alignment. And right now, life is pressing on you because what's inside you is finally ready to surface. This is why distractions are increasing. Old temptations are resurfacing. Familiar patterns are trying to pull you back in. People from your past may suddenly reappear. Opportunities that look good on the surface but feel wrong in your spirit may present themselves. None of this is random. This is the test asking you one last time, do you really know who you are now? Because if you truly know who you are, you won't need to entertain what you've already outgrown. You're being tested in secrecy as well, what you do when no one is. Watching matters more than ever. How you handle private moments, quiet thoughts, and hidden decisions is shaping the public outcomes that are coming. Winning season doesn't reward talent alone, it rewards integrity. It doesn't respond to potential, it responds to consistency. And right now, your consistency is being refined in places no one else can see. There will be moments when you feel misunderstood, even by people who claim to support you. They won't see the internal battles you've already won. They won't recognize the restraint it takes for you not to react the old way. They won't applaud the maturity it takes to stay silent when you could easily speak. But this is where your growth becomes undeniable to you, even if it's invisible to others. You are learning that validation is optional when alignment is present. Notice how you no longer crave chaos. Drama doesn't excite you anymore. Emotional highs and lows feel exhausting rather than thrilling. That's because your nervous system is recalibrating. You're not built for survival mode anymore. You're being rewired for stability, clarity, and focus. And stability can feel boring to someone who was trained in chaos, but it is essential for long-term winning. This season is also testing your forgiveness. Not forgiveness that reconnects you to people who hurt you, but forgiveness that releases the emotional weight you've been carrying. You're learning that holding on to resentment drains energy you need for where you're going. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was acceptable. It's saying it will no longer control you, and chosen ones cannot enter winning season carrying emotional debt from old battles. You're also being tested in gratitude. Can you appreciate where you are without resenting how long it took to get here? Can you honor the process without comparing your timeline to someone else's highlight reel? Gratitude keeps your heart open. Comparison closes it. And winning season flows toward those who can remain thankful even before the full manifestation arrives. There's a quiet confidence forming in you now. Not loud, not performative, just solid. You don't feel the need to announce your plans. You don't feel the need to defend your decisions. You don't feel the urge to explain your silence. This is emotional maturity. This is strength that doesn't seek attention. And this kind of strength is magnetic. It draws the right opportunities and repels unnecessary distractions. You are being prepared to lead, even if your leadership looks different than you imagined. Leadership doesn't always mean standing in front of crowds. Sometimes it means setting an example by how you move, how you speak, how you choose peace over ego. People are watching you more than you realize, not because you're perfect, but because your growth is evident. And winning season often begins when others start drawing strength from how you navigate pressure. This test is also revealing who belongs in your next chapter. Some people will naturally drift away. Some connections will fade without conflict. Some conversations will end without closure. This doesn't mean you failed. It means alignment is happening. Not everyone is meant to witness your elevation. Some were only meant to walk with you through the refining fire, not the reward. And releasing them without resentment is part of passing the test. You may feel moments of doubt creeping in late at night. Questions about whether you're doing enough, whether you missed an opportunity, whether you're truly ready. Doubt doesn't disqualify you, it humanizes you. What matters is whether you let doubt dictate your decisions or simply pass through your awareness. Winning season belongs to those who move forward even when certainty is incomplete. There is also a deep lesson unfolding around trust. Trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting the timing. You've spent enough time doubting your inner voice because of past mistakes or external opinions. Now you're learning that discernment comes from experience, not perfection. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to listen when something inside you says yes or no and honor that signal without negotiation. The old you would have rushed this season, desperate for results. The new you understands that alignment is more powerful than speed. You're learning to move intentionally, not impulsively, to respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. This slower, more deliberate pace is not delay, it's precision, and precision is what separates temporary success from lasting impact. You are also being tested in humility, not the kind that makes you small, but the kind that keeps you teachable. Winning season will place you in environments where ego can easily take over. This test is ensuring that your confidence doesn't turn into arrogance, and your self-belief doesn't turn into isolation. You're learning that strength and humility can coexist, and that balance is essential for longevity. Pay attention to how you handle small victories right now. Do you celebrate them quietly or dismiss them because they don't look big enough yet? Small wins are rehearsals for larger ones. How you handle progress now is how you'll handle abundance later. Gratitude in the small moments trains your nervous system to receive without overwhelm. There will be days when you feel emotionally flat, not sad, not excited, just neutral. This is part of integration. Your system is adjusting to a new baseline. You're no longer living in extremes. You're learning balance, and balance is the foundation of sustainable success. Winning season doesn't thrive on constant adrenaline. It thrives on consistency and clarity. This test is also asking you to redefine success, not as approval, not as applause, not as comparison, but as alignment with your values and purpose. When success is defined externally, it's unstable. When it's defined internally, it becomes unshakable. You're learning to measure progress by peace, growth, and integrity, not just outcomes. You might notice that your prayers, intentions, or goals are becoming more specific. You're no longer asking for vague blessings. You're asking for clarity, strength, wisdom, and alignment. This shift matters. It shows maturity. It shows readiness. Winning season responds to clarity. The clearer you are about who you are and what you stand for, the easier it is for opportunities to find you. You are being tested in courage as well. The courage to disappoint others. The courage to choose differently. The courage to stand alone if necessary. The courage to trust your path, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet decisions made daily in alignment with your truth. Some days will feel heavier than others. That doesn't mean you're regressing. Growth is not linear. Some lessons need repetition before they fully integrate. Be patient with yourself. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are in process, and process is sacred. Winning season will require you to be emotionally available without being emotionally reactive. It will require you to be open without being naive. It will require you to be confident without being rigid. These qualities are being developed now in subtle ways through everyday interactions and choices. You're also learning the power of restraint. Just because you can respond doesn't mean you should. Just because you're invited doesn't mean you need to attend. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's aligned. Restraint is not actness. It's mastery. And mastery is the mark of those who are ready for elevation. There is a calm determination settling into you, a knowing that doesn't need to be proven, a faith that doesn't need to be announced. This is not excitement, it's assurance. And assurance is what carries you through uncertainty without panic. You are being refined to recognize that not everything that feels good is good for you, and not everything that feels uncomfortable is harmful. Some discomfort is growth in disguise. Some resistance is protection. Discernment is learning the difference, and you are learning it now. This season is shaping your character more than your circumstances, and character determines how long success lasts once it arrives. You are being trusted with future influence, even if you can't see it yet. That trust is earned through how you handle this unseen preparation. As the rhythm continues, remember this: you are not becoming someone new, you are returning to who you were always meant to be. Without fear, without apology, without the weight of old expectations. The old you is dissolving not through force, but through awareness, and awareness changes everything. So stay present, stay intentional, stay honest with yourself. This is not the end of the test, but it is the deepening of it. And every moment you choose growth over comfort, alignment over approval, truth over familiarity, you are stepping further into the frequency of winning season. Even if the full manifestation has not yet appeared, even if the evidence is still forming, even if the path ahead still feels quiet and unfinished. And in this quiet unfolding, there is something important happening that you may not even realize yet. Your relationship with time is changing. You're no longer frantic about what hasn't happened. You're no longer obsessing over deadlines that once controlled your ions. You're learning that timing is not an enemy, it's an ally. When you rush, you bypass lessons. When you wait with intention, you integrate wisdom. And this test is checking whether you can remain steady even when outcomes are still forming. There are moments now when you sense a shift in how you carry yourself. Your posture feels different, even energetically. You walk with more awareness. You speak with more intention. You choose your words carefully, not because you're afraid, but because you understand the power behind them. This is the kind of maturity that doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself over time. And winning season requires this level of presence because careless energy attracts careless results. You are also learning that not every feeling needs to be acted on. Emotions rise and fall, but wisdom observes before it moves. The old you reacted quickly, driven by urgency or fear of loss. The new you pauses, breathes, evaluates. That pause is powerful. That pause is where self-mastery lives. And self-mastery is the foundation of any lasting victory. Notice how your standards have changed. What you once accepted now feels unacceptable. What you once chased now feels unnecessary. What you once feared now feels manageable. This isn't arrogance, this is evolution. Growth naturally raises standards, and with higher standards comes fewer distractions, fewer attachments, fewer emotional drains. That's not loss, that's clarity. This final test is also examining your relationship with silence. Silence used to make you uncomfortable. It felt like abandonment or rejection. Now silence feels like space to think, space to feel, space to align. You're learning that silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It often means everything is aligning behind the scenes. Seeds grow underground before they break the surface. You may notice that you're becoming more selective with your energy. You don't engage in every conversation. You don't attend every gathering. You don't react to every comment. This isn't avoidance. It's discernment. Energy is currency, and you're learning to invest it wisely. Winning season requires this awareness because the higher you go, the more expensive your energy becomes. There's also a lesson unfolding around identity. You are no longer defined by what you've been through. You are no longer introducing yourself through your struggles. You're not leading with your pain anymore. Your past informed you, but it does not define you. And letting go of that identity is part of the test. Who are you without the struggle? Who are you without the wounds? Who are you without the need to prove resilience? This question can feel unsettling because pain once gave you a sense of purpose. Survival once gave you direction. But now you're stepping into a season where purpose comes from creation, not reaction. From vision, not defense. From intention, not endurance. And this shift requires you to release familiar narratives, even the ones that once empowered you. You are also being tested in how you receive. Receiving support, receiving compliments, receiving ease. The old you felt uncomfortable receiving because you were used to earning everything through struggle. But winning season includes flow. It includes support. It includes moments where things come together without resistance. And this test is asking whether you can receive without guilt, without suspicion, without self-sabotage. Pay attention to moments when things go right and you instinctively wait for something to go wrong. That's old programming. You're learning to interrupt, to allow good moments to exist without bracing for impact, to let joy be present without fear. This is deep work, and it's essential for sustaining success. You are also learning to trust that not every connection needs intensity to be meaningful. Some relationships will feel calm, steady, grounded. At first, this may feel unfamiliar, but this is what alignment feels like. Drama was never depth. Chaos was never chemistry. Peace is not boring. It's safe, and safety allows growth. There is a recalibration happening in your values. You care less about being impressive and more about being authentic. You care less about being busy and more about being effective. You care less about being liked and more about being respected. These shifts signal readiness. Winning season aligns with those who value substance over image. You may feel moments of grief for who you used to be. Not because you want to go back, but because you're acknowledging how much you carried, how much you endured, how much you sacrificed. Honor that version of yourself. Thank them, but don't cling to them. Their job is complete. The test is also revealing your relationship with control. You're learning the difference between intentional action and forced outcomes. Control once gave you a sense of safety. Now trust is taking its place. Trust in your preparation. Trust in your discernment. Trust in the timing. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop forcing results. You're also becoming more aware of your internal environment, your thoughts, your beliefs, your self-talk. You're catching yourself when you slip into old patterns of criticism or doubt. And instead of spiraling, you recalibrate. This is emotional intelligence. This is self-leadership. And this is what allows winning season to be sustained, not just reached. Notice how your goals are evolving. They're no longer driven by revenge, comparison, or proving a point. They're driven by alignment, fulfillment, and impact. You don't want success just to be seen. You want it to mean something. You want it to reflect who you've become. That intention changes everything. This season is also teaching you that not all doors that close are losses. Some are protections. Some are redirections. Some are endings that make room for expansion. You're learning to release attachment to outcomes that no longer align, even if they once felt important. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you listened. You are also being tested in presence. Can you be fully where you are without mentally living in the future or the past? Presence sharpens intuition. It allows you to notice subtle cues, opportunities, and red flags. Winning season requires presence because it moves quickly, and distraction leads to missed moments. There may be times when you feel like you're standing on the edge of something undefined, a threshold you can sense but not yet name. This liminal space can feel uncomfortable, but it's also powerful. It's where identity shifts. It's where old frameworks dissolve. It's where new vision begins to form. Don't rush to label it. Let it unfold. You're also learning that rest is not weakness. Rest is strategy. Burnout does not impress destiny. Sustainability does. You're honoring your limits. You're listening to your body. You're understanding that. Long-term success requires rhythm, not constant intensity. This wisdom will protect you in seasons of abundance. This test is asking whether you can remain grounded when praised and steady when challenged, whether you can stay humble without shrinking and confident without inflating. Balance is rare, and those who master it are trusted with greater responsibility. You may notice that your intuition is stronger now. You sense things before they happen. You feel shifts before they're visible. You recognize misalignment quickly. This sensitivity is not a burden, it's a gift, but it requires trust. Doubting eye. T disconnects you from your own guidance. Honoring it keeps you aligned. There are also lessons around endings. Some chapters are closing quietly without ceremony. That's okay. Not every ending needs closure. Some simply need acceptance. You're learning to let things end without forcing explanations or apologies. Peace doesn't always come from understanding. Sometimes it comes from release. You are being shaped into someone who can hold influence without losing integrity. Someone who can experience success without abandoning values. Someone who can be seen without needing to perform. This shaping happens in moments that feel ordinary, in choices that seem small, and decisions no one else notices. This season is also refining your voice. You speak with more clarity now. You choose honesty over people-pleasing. You express needs without guilt. You set boundaries without hostility. This voice will serve you well in winning season because clarity prevents confusion, and confusion creates chaos. You may feel moments of loneliness even as you become more aligned. That's not because you're disconnected, it's because you're transitioning. Old connections are fading, new ones are forming. There is often a gap between. Trust that this gap is temporary, and trust that it is purposeful. You're learning to be comfortable with uncertainty, to move without guarantees, to trust yourself enough to take steps without seeing the full staircase. This courage is quiet, but it's powerful. It's what allows growth beyond familiar limits. As this test continues, remember that you are not late. You are not early. You are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. The process is not punishing you, it's refining you. And refinement always precedes elevation. Stay attentive, stay honest, stay aligned. The rhythm is still building, the transformation is still unfolding, and every moment you choose presence over panic, integrity over impulse, and trust over control, you are moving deeper into the reality of what's coming, even if the full picture has not yet revealed itself, even if the evidence is still subtle, even if the journey ahead remains open, unfolding, and unfinished. Chosen ones, this is the moment where you stop waiting for permission and start honoring the transformation that has already taken place within you. You are no longer becoming ready, you are ready, and this final stretch is simply aligning your inner world with the outer shift that's about to unfold. Trust the discipline you've built, trust the discernment you've earned, trust the clarity that now guides your steps. You didn't survive what you survived to question yourself at the threshold. You didn't shed the old you to hesitate at the door. Stand rooted, stay present, and move forward without dragging the past behind you. Winning season doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives with certainty. And that certainty is already alive in you, steady, unshakable, and prepared to carry everything you're about to receive